This is a quick response to Gary, and possibly also to Pyrrho, and also maybe to one or two comments. It's to do with subjectivity and objectivity, particularly in regards to moral questions, but probably got wider application, I don't know. I mean, it seems to me that one of the problems arises from a really kind of binary way of looking at what constitutes, you know, the answers to these questions. You know, I'm probably caricaturing for effect, but if I misrepresent what people are saying, I apologise. But it seems to me that some of it is driven by a desire to say that there are only these two ways of looking at it, and they are diametrically opposed. There's objective empirical truth, and there is subjective solipsistic truth. And that's it. You know what I mean? That's it. Either we make some general statement about the world and the universe, and it applies under all conditions to every entity and object and atom and energy field and whatever. We can either make those kind of statements, or else we make the opposite, these subjective statements, which are only ever true of one individual in one moment in time, a highly subjective, as I say, solipsistic, person-centered viewpoint. And that's clearly not the case, and I'm hoping that's transparently obvious that's not the bloody case. You know, there's going to be all kinds of circles and overlapping circles and contradictory circles of application in between that. You know, there are certain things which might be moral choices, but might also be just different bits of knowledge and different attitudes and approaches. There are some things which I don't share with anybody else, which, you know, I have unique privilege to and access to, and they are completely subjective, and I wouldn't inflict them on anybody else. There's other things that I share with every other man on the planet, and there are things again which I share with every human being on the planet. There are some things I share with only human beings brought up in my culture, and there's things that I share only with people of my age group. There's some things, lots of things I share with every other mammal, every other sentient being. Some things I share with my dogs. These are quite important ones, I think, probably the ones that's been figuring mostly in these discussions. You know, anything with a central nervous system that's capable of kind of positive and negative evaluation of the world, you know, which in its grand form might be pleasure and pain, but in minor form is just that kind of little somatic marking that Antonio Damasio talks about, where all our experiences are tagged positively and negatively, and just give us that kind of sense of being slightly attracted to one thing and slightly repelled by something else. So that whole evaluative system, which gives us positive and negative relationships to environment, you know, any creature that's got that kind of a system, which basically means, on planet Earth at least, any creature with a central nervous system, I share a lot in common with that, you know what I mean? And lots of my dietary choices right now, but a lot of my other choices are based on the fact that I don't really like the idea of other creatures that are capable of evaluating things like pain negatively would suffer that as a result of what I choose to eat. So again, I'm applying you know, to the extent that circle of reference, that all creatures with a central nervous system, or as my wife says, anything with a face, to the extent that is shared, it's objective to that extent. It's not totally objective, it's not empirically and universally objective, it's just universal among central nervous system owners. And then there's probably other things which I have in common with, oh careful guy, that I have in common with pretty much everything that's got DNA in it, you know, including the corn stubble that I'm walking across right now in this field. It doesn't really make me not want to walk on it, you know. I can draw the distinction between some areas of overlap and others. I have no problem eating the corn that used to grow in this field, for example. And then there's probably some other stuff that I share with non-biological forms, things that don't have DNA. You know, I have a shared chemistry with everything else, but there's no particular moral approbation or moral approval attached to those kind of choices, other than in the global sense that I might affect the chemistry of the planet by certain things. And then there's all this kind of shared physics that we have, where the energy and the matter of the universe is constantly exchanging itself, and I'm part of that exchange. But again, I have no direct set of moral or any other relationships with that process. It just happens in me and through me, really. So yeah, I think this idea of there being, we have to choose between being subjective or being objective, and we should aim to be objective while somehow acknowledging our own subjectivity, is, I just think it needs to be, if we're going to use those terms, we just need to be a bit clever about them, really, and use them more precisely, and decide who we're including in these various constituencies and what the criteria for inclusion is. It doesn't make any sense for me to be nice to a cornfield, because, you know, simply because we share DNA. It doesn't share my central nervous system. It doesn't have the somatic markers of positive and negative experience, pleasures and pains, so I can step all over it without a second thought. I can't do the same with my dog, I can't do the same with my kids, I can't do the same with my wife, and I wouldn't want to. Does that make sense? Maybe it makes sense.